The headlights cut through the thick fog like dull knives. It was a cold night, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones. The road stretched before me, a black ribbon winding through the desolate countryside. I was alone, driving. Each mile felt longer than the last. My phone had died miles back, no music, no podcasts, just the low hum of the engine, and the endless silent darkness beyond the windshield. The world felt heavy with the weight of the fog. It pressed in on the car, creating an eerie silence that amplified every creak and groan of the old vehicle. I should have stopped hours ago, found a motel, anywhere but here. But something kept me moving. A strange sense of urgency, like I was being pulled forward by an invisible thread, or maybe just plain old-fashioned fear. Whatever it was, it kept my foot on the gas pedal, pushing me deeper into the night. And then I saw her. A figure standing on the side of the road, barely visible through the thick, swirling mist. My heart leaped into my throat as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. Just ahead, shrouded in the swirling mist, was a figure. My foot hovered over the brake, unsure if I should stop or keep going. Was it a person? Out here? In this weather? The fog was so dense it was hard to tell. As I got closer, the figure came into focus. A woman. She was tall and slender, her form almost translucent in the ghostly light. Her hair was long and dark, falling in wet strands around her shoulders. She wore a long, flowing dress, light blue, almost gray in the darkness. It billowed around her legs like a phantom flame. She didn't signal. Didn't even turn as I slowed to a stop beside her. She just stood there, staring straight ahead into the fog. Her face was pale and drawn, her features obscured by the shadows and the mist. But her eyes were what held me captive. Large and dark, they seemed to shimmer with an unnatural light. They were filled with a sadness so profound, so ancient, that it sent chills down my spine. I couldn't look away. It was as if she was looking right through me, seeing into my very soul. I wanted to ask her if she needed help, but the words caught in my throat. The air around her seemed to grow colder, and I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. There was something otherworldly about her, something that didn't belong in this world. As I sat there, frozen in place, I realized that she wasn't just a figure in the fog. She was a ghost, a specter from another time, lost and wandering in the mist. And in that moment, I knew that I would never forget her, the figure in the fog, with eyes that held the weight of the world. She was a reminder of the mysteries that lie just beyond our understanding, a glimpse into the unknown. And as I drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just witnessed something extraordinary, something that would stay with me forever. Her image lingered in my mind, a haunting presence that would not fade. The fog closed in behind me, swallowing her up once more, but the memory of her remained, etched into my soul. And as I continued down the road, I couldn't help but wonder who she was, and what had brought her to that lonely stretch of road on such a foggy night. The figure in the fog, a mystery that would never be solved. Almost gray in the darkness, her dress seemed to change color with the shifting light, adding to the surreal nature of the encounter. It billowed around her legs like a phantom flame. She didn't signal, didn't even turn as I slowed to a stop beside her. She just stood there, staring straight ahead into the fog. Her face was pale and drawn, her features obscured by the shadows and the mist. But her eyes were what held me captive. Large and dark, they seemed to shimmer with an unnatural light. They were filled with a sadness so profound, so ancient that it sent chills down my spine. For a moment neither of us moved. We were frozen in time. Two souls suspended in the stillness of that desolate road. The silence was broken only by the gentle hum of the engine and the soft patter of rain against the windshield. "Can I help you?" My voice was a dry rasp, barely a whisper. She turned slowly. Her eyes, those bottomless pools of sorrow, met mine. She didn't speak, not at first, but her gaze held a strange intensity, a desperate plea that transcended words. Then, her lips moved, forming words that seemed to drift from her mouth like smoke. "The bridge," she whispered. Her voice was barely audible above the wind. "Take me to the bridge." Something in her voice, in the desolate landscape of her eyes, made it impossible to refuse. I nodded slowly, feeling a chill run down my spine. It was as if her sorrow had seeped into my very bones, compelling me to act against my better judgment. My hand trembling, I reached over and unlocked the passenger door. The cold metal of the handle felt like ice against my skin, a stark contrast to the warmth of the car's interior. She glided into the seat beside me, her movements so smooth and graceful that it seemed she was floating rather than sitting. Her presence filled the car with an almost palpable tension. Her movements were fluid, ethereal. Like a phantom breeze, she seemed to exist on the edge of reality, a specter caught between worlds. A faint scent of damp earth and rain lingered in the air after her. We drove in silence, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily between us. The road ahead was shrouded in mist, each turn revealing more of the unknown. The only sound was the low hum of the engine and the rhythmic swish of the windshield wipers battling the relentless fog. It was as if the world outside had ceased to exist, leaving only the two of us in this cocoon of uncertainty. The woman stared straight ahead, her eyes fixed on the road as if she could see something I couldn't. Her silence was unnerving, a stark contrast to the storm of emotions raging within me. Her gaze fixed on some distant point in the darkness, a place beyond the reach of the car's headlights. It was as if she was looking into the very soul of the night, searching for something lost. "The bridge," she whispered again, her voice barely audible over the sound of the rain. It was a name that carried weight, a destination that promised more than just a crossing. Her voice was closer now, clearer. It cut through the silence like a knife, each word a sharp reminder of the journey we were on. But it held a hollow echo that sent shivers down my spine. "It's not far now," she added, her words hanging in the air like a prophecy. I followed the winding road, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. Each twist and turn felt like a step deeper into a labyrinth from which there was no escape. The fog seemed to thicken as we approached our destination, wrapping around the car like a shroud. It was as if the very air was conspiring to keep us from reaching the bridge. Swirling around the car like a living thing, the mist seemed to whisper secrets of the past, tales of those who had crossed the bridge before us. And then I saw it. The bridge, looming out of the mist like a skeletal giant. The bridge. It stood there, an ominous sentinel guarding the unknown, a gateway to whatever lay beyond the veil of fog. Section 5. A Story Untold. The bridge was old. It had stood the test of time, weathering countless storms and bearing witness to untold stories. The fog that enveloped it now seemed to be a shroud, hiding its secrets from the world. Ancient. Its rusted iron supports were barely visible through the thick fog. The air was thick with moisture, and the silence was almost deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of the old structure. It looked like it was ready to collapse into the dark water below at any moment. The river beneath was a black abyss, its depths unknown, and its current swift and unforgiving. As I pulled to a stop at the crest of the bridge, the woman turned to me. Her presence was almost ghostly, her figure barely discernible through the mist. For the first time I saw a flicker of something other than sadness in her eyes. A glimmer of hope, or was it desperation? 22 years, she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost lost in the fog, but the weight of her words was unmistakable. Her voice cracked with emotion. It was as if the years of waiting had finally taken their toll, and she could no longer hold back the flood of feelings that had been building up inside her. 22 long years I've waited. Waited for what? I asked, my curiosity piqued, and my heart heavy with empathy for her plight. My voice was barely a whisper. The fog seemed to absorb the sound, making it feel as though we were the only two people in the world. For someone to hear my story, she said. Her eyes bore into mine, pleading for understanding, for someone to finally listen, for someone to find me. Her story. It was a tale of loss and longing, of a life interrupted and a soul left wandering. It poured out of her then. Like a dam breaking, her words flowed freely, each one carrying a piece of her pain, a torrent of pain and sorrow. Her tears mingled with the fog, her sobs echoing in the stillness of the night. She spoke of a stormy night, a car accident. The details were vivid, as if she were reliving the nightmare with each word, of being trapped, injured, alone. The fear and desperation in her voice were palpable, painting a picture of a nightmarish ordeal, of her cries for help swallowed by the wind and the rain. The storm had been relentless, drowning out her pleas and leaving her isolated in her suffering. Of her body, hidden beneath the twisted wreckage, never to be found. Her story was one of tragedy and unresolved anguish, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life. I sat there, my blood turning to ice as she spoke. The air grew heavy with the weight of her words. The car seemed to shrink around us. The fog pressed in closer, as if the night itself was leaning in to listen. She spoke of her unfinished business, of the family she left behind, of the peace she couldn't find, and then, her story reached its tragic end. She fell silent. Her eyes, now filled with a strange sense of peace, met mine one last time. "Thank you," she whispered. Her hand, cold as ice, brushed against mine, and then as quickly as she had appeared, she was gone, vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a faint scent of rain and the chilling echo of her final words. I sat there for a long time, frozen in place. The silence was deafening, the only sound the beating of my own heart. I could still feel the icy touch of her hand on mine, hear the echo of her voice in the stillness. As the shock began to wear off, I noticed something on the passenger seat, a folded piece of paper. Trembling, I reached for it. It was a newspaper clipping, yellowed with age. The headline read, "Local woman missing after car accident." The date on the paper was 22 years old. The article was short, a brief account of a young woman who had disappeared one stormy night. Her car had been found abandoned near the bridge, but her body was never recovered. I don't know how long I sat there staring at that newspaper clipping. Minutes, hours, time seemed to stand still. But as the first rays of dawn began to pierce through the fog, I knew I had to leave. I drove away from that bridge, a changed man, haunted by the memory of the woman in the blue dress and her tragic story. I contacted the local authorities, told them what I had seen, what I had heard. They searched the river, just like they had all those years ago, but they found nothing. No trace of the car, no sign of the woman's body. Some people might think I imagined it all, that the stress of the drive, the loneliness of the road, played tricks on my mind. But I know what I saw, I know what I heard, and I believe she finally found peace. They say that on foggy nights you can still see her, standing on that desolate stretch of road, a lonely figure in a blue dress, her thumb outstretched, searching for a ride. If you're ever driving down that road, late at night, and you see a lone figure standing in the fog, keep driving, don't stop, don't make eye contact, just keep driving, because some stories are better left untold, and some passengers are better left undisturbed.